Good morning, dear children. Today we are going to discuss the 8th chapter of politics, that is, challenges to democracy. In this chapter, we are covering the topics of what is democracy, courts on democracy, challenges to democracy, and political reforms, redefining democracy. So these are the topics we are covering in this chapter, that is, what are the main challenges to democracy. And first one is, what is democracy? Democracy is by far the most challenging form of government, both for politicians and for the people. The term democracy comes from the Greek language and means rule by the people. Comparing to other forms of ruling, democracy is most challenging form of government. That is, in democracy, there are two parts participating in democratic field. That is, politicians and the people. The people are the final persons who is electing the leaders or the rulers of a particular country or of a particular region. That is the form of democracy. In the dictionary, the definition of democracy is the government by the people in which the supreme power is vested or given to in the people and exercised directly by them or by their electoral agents under a free electoral system. That means democracy is giving the supreme power is giving to the people, not to anybody else. In some other countries, there are kings and queens ruling the entire region and the country. But in democratic countries, the supreme power or the supreme authority is given to, it is purely given to people. And it is exercised directly by them, or it is happening directly by them itself in a particular elector agents. That is, the agents as the politicians. And we the people are electing the politicians or the political reforms or the government by our votes, by casting our votes. So the supreme power or the authority, the full authority is given or vested to the people. That is the meaning of democracy. And next, in the phrase of Abraham Lincoln, democracy means democracy is a government of the people, by the people and for the people. The only non-definition for democracy is the words of Abraham Lincoln, that is, democracy is a government of the people, by the people and for the people. It is purely like that itself. Democracy is a government that is containing of the people. The democracy is containing of the people, and the democracy is happening by whom? By the people. And for what the democracy is performing? For the people. So this is the definition that Abraham Lincoln told, that by the people, for the people and of the people. Now we can look at some quotes on democracy. First of all, the democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. This is the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt. He is a famous US political leader. And he says that democracy cannot succeed, or democracy cannot go on without the participation or without the correct choice of people or correct choice of politicians. And that is the real safeguard of democracy, within whom? That is within the people who are electing the leaders. And the next quote is of Aristotle. He is a Greek philosopher, and he says that in a democracy, the people or the poor will have more power than the rich, because there are more of them and there will be majority is supreme. In the words of Aristotle, we can see that there are so many peoples, or there are so many poor peoples rather than richer people. So the people or the poor people will be more, and they will choose their correct representative, so that the democracy is functioning with the help of poor people or the majority people, and the majority of supreme will be given to that particular people. And the next is Charles Bukowski, a German-American poet, novelist and a short story writer. In the views of him, he says that the difference between a democracy and a dictatorship is that in a democracy, you vote first and take orders later. In a dictatorship, you don't have waste your time for voting. In his quote, he is comparing between the democracy and dictatorship. And he says that in a democracy, you will vote first. We will go for voting and waiting for result, and the elected representatives or the leaders were selected. But in a dictatorship, you don't have to waste the timing for voting. That is the suggestion of Charles Bukowski. So these are main quotes of some peoples regarding the democracy and all. Next is, a challenge is not just any problem. We usually call only those difficulties a challenge, which are significant and which can be overcome. A challenge is a difficulty that carries within the opportunity for progress. Once we overcome a challenge, we go up to a higher level than before. That means, what we call as a challenge, it is a difficulty, right? So, in this chapter, we are discussing about the difficulties or about the hindrances that is happening to democracy. That are the challenges happening to democracy. And there are three different kinds of challenges, that is foundational challenge, challenge of expansion and deepening of democracy. These are the three main challenges that is faced by democracy. First one is foundational challenge. Foundational challenge means different countries face different kinds of challenges. At least 1/4 of the globe is still not under democratic government. As we all know that so many countries are following the democratic arena, but others so many are following monarchical rule. So at least 1/4 of the globe is not under the control or under the government of democratic rule. And these countries face the foundational challenge of making the transition to democracy and then instituting democratic government. That is the foundational challenge, and it is faced by many of the countries. And this involves bringing down the existing non-democratic regime or keeping military away from controlling government and establishing a sovereign and a functional state. For example, Nepal was under one-man rule till recent times. Now, Nepal has changed to democratic system. Nepal is a very good example of foundational challenge of democracy. That is, it is a difficulty or a challenge faced by many countries. In this case, the Nepal is facing a democratic challenge or democratic difficulty because of the ruling system. That is, foundational challenge or this difficulty faced by Nepal, because the Nepal is ruled by military. So the military militants or the military operators or the military armies are controlling all over Nepal. So the Nepal is feeling very difficulty because of this ruling. That means they don't have any rights, they don't have any subsidies, they don't have any civilian rights and all. So these all are difficulties faced by the Nepal peoples. So they changed to a democratic system, because the democratic system is going on a smooth way and it will fulfill the needs of the Nepalian people. So, next is the challenge of expansion. Challenge of expansion means by giving greater power to local government, that is extending federal principle to all, including women's and minority peoples. That's for the main example for the challenge of expansion is India. That means the challenge, the difficulty faced by the expansion is the government has to face, or the government has to look over the nook and corner of each and every area of within that territory. That means that government ensure that women and minority peoples all are included in the government or all are participated in the democratic system. So this is the challenge of expansion, because in India itself we know that so many peoples or minority peoples, children, women, all of them are facing many problems in their life. It must change, or it must abolish all of the minority categorization or discrimination among the women and minority. So this is the challenge of expansion or difficulty of expansion. And the third challenge is deepening of democracy. Deepening of democracy means it is the democracy by strengthening institutions that help people's participation and control, or this could be done by bringing down the control of rich and powerful people in decision making. That means deepening of democracy means we have to strengthen each and every institution for helping the people participation and control. That is panchayats, municipalities, the local self-governments, all of these government should give participation for rich and poor peoples without any discrimination. And by strengthening of each institution, that will help the people's participation and control. These are the three main challenges that is faced by democratic government or democracy. So children, this is the chapter based on the challenges. This is a small chapter, and this chapter is discussing about only three of these challenges: deepening of democracy, challenge of expansion, and foundational challenge. Here comes to the end of the chapter, challenge to democracy. So if you have any doubts, we can have a talk in our online session. Thank you, children.